Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
I didn't understand how important the job was, or how it can emotionally take a toll on you. So I feel like at first, honestly, it was just, this is a good job. I'm kind of young. This is a good opportunity to make some money. And then I really started falling in love with it.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, and a shout-out, as always, to subscribers for everything. And this has been an excellent week already. I started traveling just a few days ago on Saturday from Fort Wayne, Indiana, out here to North Carolina. I'm in Wilmington. I'm in New Hanover County. And yesterday, had a class that I was teaching, had a lot of fun with everyone, a lot of powerful stories and everything coming out of that, especially the Imagine Listening session. And now today, I'm back here, and we are recording a bunch of episodes with a lot of folks, and I'm excited to be here. And my next guest today is Courtnie, and she's a 911 quality and training manager with New Hanover County 911 out of North Carolina. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. So yesterday was a lot of fun with all of you. And, you especially, you had a lot of things to say as well when we were talking about, just training and folks that who have kind of been there for a long time, and really, the stuff that we were talking about, just kind of bridging the gap between new folks that were coming in and folks that have been there forever, or even folks that have been there forever together, and trying to get everyone to talk. And so I really appreciate everything that you were saying when we were in there and such, and just people sharing experiences and stories. But for you, especially in the position that you have now and all, because you've got about 13 years, going on 14 years in about August, right, for your career and all. So you've got a lot of experience and stuff that you've done. And I love that you also just kind of climbing the ladder and going from being the front line to now even an admin position as well, and doing all the training and such. But I guess, what are some of the things, or maybe just your idea of trying to bridge that gap between everyone, to get everyone to kind of communicate?
There is, I feel like, a large gap between when I started as a young telecommunicator with the people who are starting these days. I kind of feel that back then, when you started work, you were starting a career, and you knew there weren't many options for a better paying job and things like that. Fast forward to nowadays, when a person can DoorDash, or they can do different things like that. There's a lot of different options for almost in our pay level that not necessarily younger people, but younger telecommunicators don't have to put up with the things that we put up with. They didn't have to put up with how the job is kind of mentally exhausting. Now people are so much more aware of their mental state that they would rather I'd rather DoorDash or I'd rather leave. So that's one of the gaps I feel like where we did it because we needed this job and it was a great job, to now being more mentally aware and, well, I really don't have to do this job.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I really can leave. So
Right.
there's a big difference there. Also, there's a lot of knowledge when I first started. It's funny, when I first started, the culture in 911 was completely different. There were a lot of older ladies. Those ladies are so mean. Those are some mean ladies. I remember saying, like, I just think she don't like Black people. And then after a couple of days, I was like, oh, she don't like anybody. It has nothing to do with
Right.
It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
She just don't like anybody. It was a much different culture, kind of like standing up, yelling across the room type of thing.
Right.
And luckily it has changed. I will say that it has changed a lot over the years, but we do miss that experience from older dispatchers. Yes, times have changed. Yes, there are plenty of ways to be more efficient in doing things, but they also had a lot of experience in this certain area. We get a lot of people who don't live in New Hanover County. So the knowledge of the area, the knowledge of how things are supposed to be done, the knowledge of kind of going with your gut and knowing that I really need to be sending 2 officers to this. A lot of times, newer telecommunicators, they haven't found their confidence yet, and it takes a while to become a confident dispatcher. Yes, you can read things off the screen and tell someone where to go, but the confidence is what separates a telecommunicator from being a great dispatcher. So I've spent a lot of time just trying to make people more confident and letting them know, this is your radio. You need to sound confident. The person on the other end of the radio, sometimes, yes, there's other officers and people talking on the radio. However, they're tuned into Central's voice. And if you sound timid, if you sound like you're a little unsure, it shows on the radio. And they want someone who is confident. They want someone to tell them, no, I need you to stand by while I dispatch this other person. So just kind of teaching people confidence. That's the biggest challenge, I think, between those old senior dispatchers, not old in age, but just old in their career, like seasoned dispatchers versus some of the newer telecommunicators, just trying to teach them how to be confident.
I think confidence is a huge thing. So I remember when I first started out and I was on radios, and there were some officers who I talked to later, and they would say, I can tell you're not fully like there with the radio yet. Like, man, I'm trying.
Right.
I said, I swear I'm trying. I said, does that make you nervous? And they would say, kind of. And I said, well, I can imagine, because you're out there doing your thing. You want to make sure, like you were saying as well, that someone on the radio has that confidence, because if they hear our voices, that little twinge or that I'm not sure of myself, then they're like, well, should I be sure of it as well?
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're really into it, and I feel like, excuse me, when you get dialed in, and as you talk about being a confident dispatcher and such, I feel like the sweet spot, it's like 2.5, 3 years. And because you've gone through that time, in the beginning, you're learning all that stuff, and your stuff, but like you were saying, you can read stuff off a screen.
Right.
Or if you're a center like mine, I think there's only a few centers that still have this, but my EMD protocol, we had those cards and we had to flip through the cards and stuff.
Yes.
But, you can go through all that stuff, but to be really dialed in, to have that full on, just like, I've got this, like I've figured it out. I've got it dialed in. It's about 2.5, 3 years or so.
That's also the time when people start leaving.
Yeah. And for some folks,
3 to 5 years is kind of that time where people leave, not necessarily anything to do with the job, but people's life change. You get married, you move, your husband or wife is deployed somewhere different, or you have older parents who you need to go take care of. So it's kind of like, as soon as they get to that sweet spot, it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm actually going to another agency. I know. So you start all over again.
Yeah, you start all over again. So I want to go back really quick in time a little bit. Not so much focusing on the ladies. Well, I do kind of want to know a little more, because I had a group of ladies that I worked with as well, but we'll get to that here in a moment. So I want to go back in time really quick. How did you even get involved in public safety?
Actually, I've always had a job. I've
Mhm.
always worked. But this one particular year, I was not working. I've been working since I was 14, but I was not working. So I applied at so many different places. And actually, when they called me back, I forgot that I even applied.
It had
'Cause
been so long.
back then it was like 2 months. That's eternity without having a
For
job.
sure. Yeah, exactly.
So when she called me back, I was at my job that sometimes people have jobs they can kind of always go back to. I was at one of those type of jobs. Like I know I'm always can kind of go back here, but I had only been there back for about 2 weeks, and I was really contemplating. You never want to leave a job in a bad place. Like this job can really change. It's pivotal. So do I leave this job that I just came back to and try 911? And I felt like it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I didn't really even know a lot of people at that time that you didn't need a higher education to be a 911 telecommunicator.
Mhm.
So I took a chance and I came here and I absolutely love the career. I would not change anything. It's a very rewarding career, but I didn't come from any type of public safety background. I was
Mhm.
doing phlebotomy when I came here. So I didn't come from any public safety.
So, did you get to do like a sit along or anything to see what it was like, or was it just like you've got the job and you're coming in and it's just what this is what it is?
I believe everyone had to come in for a rotation, like a 12-hour shift, and just kind of see. And you were not getting paid, so they showed your dedication. Like, do you really want this job?
Yeah.
So I just came in and monitored and seen what it was like. It was a lot. You can't really understand the stuff that they're saying on the radio, but it was also exciting.
So you end up jumping in and everything, and you're learning all of this stuff. Now, did you feel like it, I guess, got into your blood right away?
Um, I liked the chaos. I like to fix things.
Mhm.
So I will say right away, I kind of knew that it was a good job. That was the main thing. At first, it was this is a good job.
Mhm.
This is a lot more money than I was making at the job before. It was maybe I can retire from there. But one day I fell in love with being a telecommunicator. Um, I didn't understand how important the job was or how it can emotionally take a toll on you. So I feel like at first, honestly, it was just this is a good job. I'm kind of young. This is a good opportunity um, to make some money. And then I really started falling in love with it.
That is awesome.
Mhm.
And the reason I asked too is because a lot of folks have said, you know what, I got in there, I was kind of nervous, of course, like everyone else, and then maybe some incident happened, or they heard a phone call, or they took a phone call, or whatever, and they felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. Like I made the right choice, and they just continue going, and they're just really digging it.
Yeah. I remember one of my kind of first calls that stood out for me when I first started. I was still in training.
Mhm.
A guy called in and he basically said, "This is my address. I just want someone to find me before my sister does." Bang. And the phone the phone fell. And I remember we did not call him back. And the supervisor called me in and she called me and the CTO in at the time, and she was saying, "Hey, it's not really your fault because you were sitting with someone, but y'all didn't call him back." And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, I've only been here a couple of days. I had no idea. I'm still trying to process him
Right.
killing himself on the phone and disconnecting. But it was at that moment that I realized how important the job was and how this is serious. This is not like anything that I have ever done before. This is a serious job. And things like that are going to happen. So do you buckle down and decide this is not what I want to do, or do you decide this is what I do want to do because I feel like I can make a difference? And I feel
Right.
like at that moment I decided I'm gonna stick with it.
I love that you had that decision as well, and that you were aware enough. Like some folks, they've taken calls like that or heard calls like that, and they go on break and they've decided to come back. And they have said that had I not come back, I don't think I would have come back at all.
Yeah.
That would have been it.
Right. I've been here a while. I've had someone who went on break and never came back. So, yeah, and I understand. And the role that I have been in for the last 3 years plus is the quality and training role. So I get to see a lot of new hires, and I am their very first day. This is what you can expect. And I try to tell them, give it a chance. Give it a chance. And back then it was kind of like, suck it up. We don't live like that anymore. It's kind of like, if you need a minute, it's okay. If you need to step out, it's fine. If you need to call whoever comforts you, then that's okay. And I try to also explain to them that everybody is going to have a certain type of call that may get to them. In the beginning, it may be every call because this is new to you. But if you come from a history of domestic violence and you hear domestic violence calls, that may be your particular call.
Right.
If you have small children at home, calls involving small children are going to get to you, and that's okay, because we are human at the end of the day, is what I always try to get them to understand. Everybody is a different call is going to affect them differently. I have my own particular calls. So it's okay not to be okay is the biggest thing that I try to tell new telecommunicators.
Right. Yeah. It's where you go after that. And continue on. What is the next level now that you are aware of that? What are you going to do next? Whether it be find some therapy, some sort of support system around you, work on you, breathing techniques, meditation, whichever. You gotta keep it going.
Right.
And in the beginning, like we were saying earlier, you're working. We're talking about kind of a different guard that was in public safety for a long time, where it was just like that. You just suck it up. Excuse me. Take it to, you go to the next one and that's it. You just keep going. You deal with it later at home, or you just bury it or whatever. And it's like, no, man, like that's why people are burning out and stuff. Right. And so you had a group of ladies that you worked with. I had a group of ladies that I worked with as well. And I remember them telling me, not the ladies, but other people telling me, you're going to that crew in the morning, they're going to eat you alive. And I said, what? And they said, well, you're asking a lot of questions and, you're writing extra notes or whatever. And I said, well, don't you want me to ask more questions? Like there's a point, because I want to learn more. And they were, in the beginning, you could tell there was that tough exterior. There was a little bit, but I think it was me just trying to make them laugh every so often that
I was too scared to laugh. There was no laughing going on, trust me.
I mean, my laughing was probably just a defense mechanism as well as trying. But there was one lady that I remember, and if I remember correctly, her name was Linda, and she loved coffee, like just loved coffee. She would go through a couple pots by herself. And I remember saying to her, I said, this morning I'm going to try to keep up with you. And she's like, well, bring it on. Let's see if you can do it. I think I got to 2.5 cups. I was done. No, I was flying after that. I couldn't do it. I remember I got even a little woozy because it was just straight coffee, nothing in it, just straight up. But sometimes it was almost like sludge. Like that's how strong it was. And I've never done cocaine before or anything, but I think that is what it's like. My eyes were just, I was like, all right, like let's go for the rest of the day. But I do remember one time, one of the ladies joking with me, and she was joking with me, but I'm pretty sure she had said this actually happened to her. And what it was during her training, well, actually, I'll say this part first. I was writing extra notes, and she came by me with a ruler, and she jokingly said to me, she's like, Ricardo, if I see you continuing to take notes or whatever while you're on a call, because you're supposed to be typing everything in, right? And I said, well, I'm just taking extra notes for myself. I'm just writing stuff down. And she goes, okay. She goes, because I was going to hit you on your hand with the ruler. And I said, are you for real? And she's like, no. And I was like, I said, did that happen to you? And she goes, yeah, actually. She's like, I come from a different time where they worked at the sheriff's department, and there was, I mean, it wasn't like they weren't getting beat or anything, but they would pop them on their hands
Yeah.
if they were using their hands to write notes. So
Those ladies also work for the sheriff's department. So like you said, it was just a different time.
mhm.
It was definitely a different time, and I know that they all love their job, and they may have just been protective of coming into dispatch.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They all did a wonderful job, but it was scary at first.
Right.
But over time, you adapt. You learn that they don't really mean it. They're just doing their job.
Right.
And it was just it was tougher back then.
hmm
And to new telecommunicators now, it may still be tough for them, and but luckily that culture of just being terrified and you're going to make mistakes. You can't prevent anybody from. At times, people are going to pass away, like those type of things. It was just tougher back then.
Right. And things are definitely changing now, and changing for the better, I feel like.
Yes, most definitely. I definitely feel that way.
And what are some of the ways that you feel like some of those changes have been coming about?
I really think it is just letting people know that it's okay. You're not going to be perfect. I don't know. It has changed so much since I first started. I don't know. I can't really put a finger on exactly what all those changes are, but I think the culture is the biggest one.
hmm Yeah, there's definitely a culture change for the better, because before it just seemed like, dispatch is just there, they're doing their thing or whichever, and nobody, that was it. Just
Right.
like, in some places, I mean, it's still this way in some places, but excuse me, the debriefings
Mhm.
is what it is. The debriefings that end up coming out and stuff, for a long time, dispatch wasn't involved.
Yes.
And now it seems like it's changing, and it's because of that culture piece, because people are talking more and sharing more, and there's so many other things that are coming out that sometimes other disciplines of public safety are saying, like, where were you guys this whole time? It's like, we've always been here. It's
Right.
like, you didn't see us for whatever reason, and we're
Yes.
the ones sending you everywhere. It's
Yes.
like, now it's being recognized. We're being recognized for all of that.
I do think that we are getting invited to more debriefings and getting more involvement. I just went to a exercise meeting last week for something that's coming up, and they want to know, hey, what is dispatch point of view? What do y'all think? And we do really play a big part in what's happening. We send you where you need to go. We are updating you on what's going on. No, we may not be there physically,
Mhm.
but we are there helping you. So it's good to be involved. It's
Right.
good that they are reaching back out and asking us, how did that call go, or inviting us to the debriefings, because it affects us. Even though we're not there, it still affects us.
Right. So as long as you feel comfortable, I know you mentioned a call earlier, but throughout your career, are there any calls that just really kind of stick with you?
Um, there was a call one time that I feel like, as a telecommunicator, they all start kind of running together.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No,
They
exactly.
all
Yes.
start running together.
Mhm.
But I do remember this guy had called in about his mother. I'm sorry, it was actually about his father
Mhm.
and his wife. He was saying, hey, my dad called last night. He told me that he killed his wife, but I wasn't really sure. It's about 2 a.m. I went to sleep because, sometimes he says some wild things. Now it's about 9 a.m. He said, but I can't quite let it go. So I was wondering if y'all can go and check on her. So I was asking him, where does she live? He didn't have any information. He knew her name, but not where she lived at. So I got her name. I ran her driver's license to find where she lived at. And of course, you can't say, hey, does she live X, Y, and Z? So I kind of said, can you give me a description of what she looks like? So I put up her picture. It was her, the same address. So I sent officers out there. And when they went, everything that the father had described, he did to his wife. He actually did. He had murdered her. He stabbed her. He put her in a bathtub. Everything that he did, everything he explained. And I was just kind of like, wow, those are the type of things that you see on a Lifetime movie.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But those are the type of things that actually happen. And I felt good that I was able to find her driver's license number, find her address, send someone out there, because sometimes people will be like, well, you don't have an address, you need to call back.
Mhm.
But I stayed on the phone with him until I was able to figure out the right address, also without giving him information, but just having him kind of confirm a couple things, what she looks like and things like that. But that call really kind of sticks out because it was a big call.
Mhm.
It was kind of huge. There's been all types of calls. I've had a gentleman call in because someone had broken into his business and he shot the person. So the person is still there. He has shot the person, and I'm giving him CPR instructions. So he is now performing CPR on the person who was breaking into his business and he shot. Some of these things are kind of like, I can't believe that he was willing to do CPR. Like, you just
Right.
shot the person, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's so many different calls over the years.
It's an interesting profession for sure, because when you're going about your daily life, you don't know that this type of stuff is going on. Like, of course, you might see it on the news, hear it on the
Right.
radio, see it on social media or whichever, but it's when you get in here, when you realize the how dark humanity and what people
Yes.
do to each other can be.
Yes. I tell new hires that all the time. You have to be prepared for the type of calls that are going to come in, because they don't make the news.
Yeah.
All the suicides, they don't put that on the news that someone is hanging, or they don't talk about those things. So you have to be mentally prepared. You have to make sure you have someone who you can talk to, and also keep an eye out on yourself and notice when you're changing.
Mhm.
We even ask that in the interview process, like, do you have someone to talk to? Do you have family and friends? Have you already talked to someone and let them know that you're thinking about a career in 911? Just to mentally prepare people. This is not the call. We're not Holly Berry's. Nothing like you're going to see on TV.
Right. Yes,
It's
exactly.
nothing like TV. So
Yeah.
you have to be prepared for what happens in real life. And every call is not bad. Every call is definitely not a bad call.
Mhm.
But you just need to be prepared, because you never know what call you're going to get. So be prepared. Make sure you have people that you can talk to. That's usually the best advice I can give people. I do recall a moment when I had to kind of check myself. My husband was telling me about someone who had passed away in his family. It was actually two people
Mhm.
had passed away. And I was washing dishes. And he was like, such and such died, and he tried to help, and then he ended up dying. And I was like, okay. And I just kept washing dishes. Like 45 minutes later, I had to go back and say, you know what? I apologize, because I didn't respond in the way that I should have responded, because I've been listening to people die for years at that point. So just kind of noticing that, hey, you still have to, I know you have to kind of prepare yourself for these phone calls, but don't forget who you are in the process. Don't let that numb you to reality or to your own world. So that was kind of a thing that I had to do, check my own self.
That is I love that you did that, because you could have easily just walked away or just let it go or whatever, but it pops back in your mind to go back and apologize and be there and listen, because sometimes I don't want to say we get jaded in this profession sometimes, but a little bit, just a tad. Yeah, some things will happen and you're like, oh, like, you don't have any other reaction? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I listen to that every day,
Yeah.
but actually, just kind of like you said with your husband, like, let me listen to you, let me step back,
Yeah.
and really, because sometimes we don't think about the fact that there are other folks out there that are not exactly like us, who
Right. Who hear that all the
yes, who
time,
hear it and
or
everything. It has been awesome to have you on here, to hear your
thank you.
story, and learn more about you, and just your perspective on a lot of things with the profession. And I love that these folks have someone like you to be able to have gone through some of that other guard and the mean toughness or all of that, but also to be able to translate that in a way where the new people who are coming in, you can say, this is what it was like then, this is what it's like now, and the
Right.
changes that we've made. And there are so many more resources, because I think just from talking to you and getting to know you a little bit here through this episode, you are like me and a lot of other folks who started a while back and dealt with some of that original guard, that we want to leave 911 in a better place than we found it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And we continue that good cycle there, instead of the vicious cycle that was there that is now starting to go away and all. So thinking about your career and all, if you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning, to give yourself a little bit of advice, what would you tell yourself?
Keep going and don't be afraid and don't be discouraged. There were times when I applied for positions that I did not get at the time, and I felt like, oh, I definitely know I should have got that.
Yeah.
All the way back, like assistant supervisor and things like that. But just keep going, and your time is your time. Again, back when I first started, it seemed like there were no opportunities. Like, these ladies ain't never leaving these like, never leaving.
Yeah.
But eventually people started retiring, and there started being more opportunities. That is something that's different as well. Just hang in there is what I would tell myself. And it gets better. And it's not always going to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be perfect. And I feel like don't let one situation kind of ruin what could be your career or get things blown out of proportion. 911 to me is really like a family. It's really family oriented. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to have y'all with each other every day, 12 hours. Like,
Yeah.
it's bound to happen.
Exactly.
But just bouncing back and just staying with it. And hopefully people learn to love the career like how I love it. I know it's not for everybody, but it's definitely something that I love, and I try to explain that to other people and show people the good side of being there for people and being able to help somebody else and being able to tell that officer where to go, or being able to make sure you're checking on your unit. Sometimes they think they don't have anybody, but just making sure that watchdog goes off, you need to make sure that you're checking on that person. So I try to instill all the things that I know, not a whole bunch, but I try. But that is probably what I would tell myself. Don't give up, because there were times when I wanted to give up, and I'm glad I didn't. Just stick with it, and it gets better.
Perfect. Thank you so very much
No
for being
problem.
on.
Thank
This has
you for
been a
having me.
lot of fun. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. But the easiest way to do all of this is just to simply go to links, and that's links with 2 i's.co/WTT podcast. You'll find everything there. And this episode has been sponsored by InDigital, a leader next gen core services. And you can see this on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live. And then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.